From the roads to your home and everything in between, we can't avoid it.
Definite change.
Winter weather, cold and cloudy, snowy and slushy. But it's not all bad. Our WTOL11 weather team is here to make sure that you are ready for whatever winter throws at us. Welcome in to our WTOL11 winter weather special.
We've got our whole team here, and we can experience all sorts of weather here in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. And it all has an effect on what each of us do, our health and our homes.
Sure does, and the WTOL11 weather team will make sure that you are ready for whatever this winter brings.
And we'll check our outlook for just how much snow we could see and how I have some helpful information on dealing with all of winter.
And we're also looking at how the Great Lakes affect our forecast and some important history along the way. But first, we don't want to make you wait any longer. Let's find out what winter has in store.
The winter season can stir a lot of emotion. Love it or hate it, we're going to be talking snowfall in our winter weather outlook. Now, the WTOL11 weather team is going to be diving very deep into the data to determine how much snow we may be expecting this winter season, how long winter may be lasting, and just how cold this winter season may end up being. Now, to do that, we need to look at the data, and we're going to start with the global atmospheric circulation known as La Nina, and how this is going to be impacting our winter weather across the United States as we go into the upcoming winter season. So the maps, this is what it's going to be showing us. In a typical La Nina winter, that means it's cooler than average equatorial waters off the Pacific Ocean of South America. Now that matters because it alters the global circulation of our jet stream, including the polar jet stream. We get more frequent blocking high pressure systems in the North Pacific, which allow that polar jet stream to more often bring colder than average air down into the northern tier of the United States. A La Nina winter also typically results in warmer and drier than average weather across the southern tier of the country. Now, in between that polar jet stream, though, there's an area across the Great Lakes region that favors more frequent bouts of precipitation and a more active storm track, resulting in wetter than normal conditions. This is something that's going to factor big into our winter weather forecast. Now, we are also in the Great Lakes region, home to the Great Lakes, and the lakes also influence our winter weather outlook. And we're looking toward the early portion of the winter weather season, where our lake water temperatures are all well above average after our warm autumn so far, including Lake Erie and Ontario, which are the warmest of the two Great Lakes. You'll hear more from meteorologist Ryan Weekman about the influence of the Great Lakes coming up in just a bit, but this may delay at least some of the colder air early in our winter season. Now, we all have seen it and felt it, a changing winter climate. Our winters just aren't as cold as they used to be. In fact, December, January, and February all are warmer than they were just a couple decades ago, including the month of December, which is now 3 degrees warmer than it has been over the prior few decades. We've also noticed changes in precipitation patterns in our winter season. December is becoming a drier month with less snowfall and less rainfall, whereas January and February are favoring more rainfall and more snowfall through the course of the winter season. And snowfall is a big thing that we look at. So current Canadian snow cover is actually below average across parts of Lower Canada, which may limit the early season outbreaks of colder air. So we must look all the way across the globe into Siberia, where snow cover is much thicker this time of the year. This is expected to be the breeding ground of late season cold if we are able to establish what is known as a cross-polar flow. Now, to do that, we would need a split or a disruption in the polar vortex. That polar vortex is a circulation around the North Pole. When we get weaker states of the polar vortex, a split or a stretching, we allow or see that Arctic air to come out of the North Pole down into much of the Great Lakes region. This can result in some of the coldest weather that we experience over the winter season. We don't see that occurring anytime early early in our winter season, but perhaps may become more common through January and into the month of February. So our overall winter weather forecast is going to be milder than average, especially to start our winter season into the month of December. As we get deeper into January and February, we may start to see some cooler than normal weather begin to edge in toward the second half of winter. That would be January into February. And overall, we're going to stick with that La Nina winter pattern. Wetter than normal conditions will be expected across much of the Great Lakes region. So our winter weather forecast for this year is going to be expected to have warmer than average temperatures. I do believe much of that may favor the month of December before turning cooler late to the winter season. We'll have wetter than average conditions, and that may pick up late in the season again. And we all know the snow is going to be falling this winter season, and we expect near normal snowfall, which is about 37 inches of snowfall over the course of the year. But similar to the past several La Nina years, we expect much of that snow may be showing up in the month of February for a colder and snowy end to the winter season.
All right, there you see it with the snow coming down. You heard it, a third straight winter in La Nina. And of course, La Nina is just one ingredient in the winter weather forecast.
Sure is. And to make it all simple, it boils down to how La Nina activates our polar jet stream. And we'll have the shovels ready, but does it really mean we'll be shoveling large piles of snow?
Meteorologist Diane Phillips took a deeper look into the data over the snowiest winters and how La Nina may play a role in our winter snowfall.
As Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers mentioned, we are in store for a moderate La Nina this winter. And does that mean our winter is going to be looking like this with all of this snow? Well, I thought I would look at some weather data to see really how this is going to work out for us. And I started by looking at some of the top snowiest winter seasons and what phase then we were in when we had all of that snow. So 5 of those seasons we were in El Nino, 4 of them were in neutral, and 3 of them were in La Nina. Overall, looking at this data, you're going to see it's fairly balanced. That's just kind of how our weather patterns work. But the one part to consider is out of these 12 is the strength. So 4 of them in that neutral category. Then we also had another 4 that were in a weak El Nino phase. And as far as La Nina, only 1. But as I take a step back here, you'll see that 75% of our winter seasons, of the 12 snowiest winter seasons, were either in a weak phase of El Nino, La Nina, or in the neutral phase. Now, it's important to look, though, at the patterns that we have, because when we have El Nino, you see kind of drier, warmer weather. That really doesn't signal snow. But then when we have La Nina, you can kind of see a little more of a wetter pattern. And then finally, in that neutral, we have wet and cold coming together. But the biggest takeaway is where your jet stream is. El Nino and La Nina are big drivers as far as where that jet stream that carries all of our winter storms are going to go. But when you're talking either a weak phase of El Nino or La Nina, you end up with something similar to the neutral phase, where we have the wet and the cold starting to come together really close to the Ohio Valley, which means we are going to be looking at a chance for some potentially snowy winter weather season. So now we have that moderate La Nina for this year. Looking back at the data, it doesn't look like we're going to have a look like this. We're probably more than likely going to see something that looks like this, because out of our snowiest of winter seasons, none of them have occurred during a moderate La Nina. Reporting in studio, meteorologist Diane Phillips, WTOL 11.
Yeah, interesting data, Diane. Thank you. Next, we'll take a trip back in time to the most historic blizzard in our area. We're talking 1978 when we come back.
Welcome back in. Any winter season can be defined by the big one, a winter storm that is remembered for generations. Take a look. This winter will mark 45 years since the blizzard of '78. Arriving in late January 1978, this storm had little warning the fury that it would unleash. For generations, it stands as the most intense winter storm to impact our area in recorded history. Travel was snarled, schools shuttered, and thousands left stranded for days. Over 12 inches of snow fell, but it was the winds which gusted to 80 miles per hour and the snow drifts of over 15 feet that left its mark.
Can you identify, please?
Activation of the National Guard was immediately necessary, with thousands of lives saved.
And don't forget to get bundled up now. If you got some food for those animals, you better bring it along with you.
A federal disaster was declared in Ohio, and the death toll of 51 made this one of the deadliest winter storms known to ever hit the state of Ohio. Truly incredible and memorable, and it is going to be our pledge to make sure that you are the first to know when wintry weather will arrive into our area. Go ahead and download that free WTOL11 weather app to stay connected right here to the WTOL11 weather team. This winter, you're going to have access to our exclusive video updates, interactive radar, and our hour-by-hour forecast. It is a great tool to have with you. Ryan, back over to you.
One of the worst winters we can remember in recent history, back in 2014, 2015. That's one of those years that answers the question, can the Great Lakes really completely freeze? We know what a big impact that the Great Lakes have on our weather every single winter, but this is one of those that's very tricky to answer because, as far as we know, the Great Lakes have never 100% froze over. They've come awfully close, and one of those years was back in that super harsh winter almost a decade ago now. When we talk about why we don't see it freezing, a lot of it comes down to the depths of the lake. Look at Lake Michigan here, ice on the western part, clouds streaming off there. Look at Lake Ontario here. Remember how harsh this winter was? Even then, couldn't get the lake to freeze all the way over, just some clouds overhead here. One of the big reasons why, and what we're looking at, are the current lake water temperatures. We see that we have colder waters to the north, warmer waters to the south, and Lake Erie is one of those that typically freeze over very quickly. The reason why? The average depth is only 62 feet when you average the whole lake basin, so not very deep when you compare it to lakes like Lake Superior, which has an average depth of 500 feet. So it takes a long time for the ice to form up here. So the Great Lakes early in the season act as a warming mechanism for us. It really takes the sting out of some of those early season cold shots. But as the season goes on, we know that it has more effects. And one of those would be lake effect. As those northern winds come over the warm lake waters, it can cause all sorts of problems for those lake effect belt areas. For us here in the western portions of Lake Erie, oftentimes not as much. And here's the reason why. Let me break this down for you. What's going on when it comes to lake effect snow? We've got the relatively warm waters of the Great Lakes, right? We get the cold air to come over top of that warm water, and it causes rising motions to happen in the atmosphere. And one of those can be lake effect snow. And many times the snow is not measured in inches, but can be measured in feet by the time it's all said and done. This is big time snow for some portions of the Great Lakes that are downstream. Here in Toledo, Northwest Ohio, not so much. Cities like Buffalo average 95 inches of snow a season. Cleveland, 64 inches. In Grand Rapids, Michigan, over 6 feet of snow. For us like Milwaukee and Toledo, which sit on the western ends of the lakes, because of those prevailing westerly winds, it pushes the lake effect snow away from us. Some of the many effects that the Great Lakes have on our weather every single winter. Reporting in studio, I'm meteorologist Ryan Weekman.
Really good information, and we are also reminded of the dangers on Lake Erie during the winter season. Ice fishing draws thousands to the icy shores of Lake Erie each winter. Once again, this past year in February, 18 ice fishermen were air rescued by the Coast Guard from Lake Erie after an ice floe left them unexpectedly stranded. Quick warm-ups and breezy weather conditions are warning signs that ice flows may increase on Lake Erie. Be extra alert to this. Have a plan, notify others where you will be, and check your ice thickness. 4 inches or more is recommended for a person and 6 inches or more for a snowmobile.
Now, winter weather brings the cold, and that means we're all spending more to stay warm. The 5 things that you can do now to save some cash in the heart of the frigid temperatures, those details are coming up next. Winter sometimes just seems to drag on.
Boy, does it ever.
On. Yeah, and then it can cause some issues around your home.
And we're hoping to prevent that, so let's send it over to meteorologist Matt Willoughby. He's here with some things that you can do now before the heart of winter arrives to actually save you some money and map some headaches.
Exactly, yeah. The winter season can be long, dangerous, and just downright cold. It can put a strain on both your wallet and your home, along with some outdoor appliances and the plants, but there's a few ways to prepare that could save you some money this winter. Here are 5 things you can do now to get ready. First, electric or gas heat will be the most common way to stay warm, but keeping it on all winter can be a bit pricey. By investing in a smart thermostat and lowering the temperatures when you're not home, you can save hundreds of dollars. Second, make sure all windows and doors are completely closed and check for drafts. Air leaks can account for up to 40% of energy used to heat and cool a home. Third, it is that time of the year to sit back, drink hot cocoa, and watch movies, maybe light a fire. If you have a fireplace, remember to close the damper. If not, it can let out as much as a 48-inch window wide open. Fourth, check your furnace at least once to make sure it's running properly. The average household spends about $2,000 a year on an energy bill. Changing your filter every 3 months can save about 15% on energy cost. And fifth, clearing leaves from your gutters helps snow, ice, and rain flow out the ground and away from your house. It also prevents clogged gutters and ice damming, which can damage the roof and lead to water inside your home. Now that we're transitioning from inside to outside, I'm going to show you how you can protect your plants from that winter weather this season. Let's check it out. There are many ways to protect your plants against frost this winter season. What is the most affordable way?
The systemic insect control is the biggest first step you could take to protecting your plants, bringing them inside. Even just when you're purchasing plants, when you're bringing home plants, pretty much anything I'm newly introducing to my environment, I want to give a feeding of the systemic insect control.
Checking the weather ahead of time could be the deciding factor if your plants live or die. But it could be timely.
Bringing them from outside in is a lot easier and quicker of a process than vice versa, bringing them from the inside out, just because the conditions are generally a lot less harsh inside, so it's not as big of an adjustment for the plants. So it's usually pretty quick, check it for insects, give it a little bit of systemic insect control, and you're pretty much good to go in that case.
If you forget to bring your plants inside, there's still a way to save them.
It kind of really comes down to which plant. Depending on how hardy it is, would be really the deciding factor on that. If it's close to our zone, you might be able to bring it back to life, but if the root ball got damaged by the frost, it would be pretty difficult to save.
Well, it's time to take a quick break, but when we return, it can be a struggle to stay active during the cold winter months, but there are some things you can do to stay in shape and keep healthy all season long. That's next. Well, staying active and getting outdoors during the cold winter months is so important for your mind and body, but how can you do so safely? I've got the answer right here. Ready or not, cold and snowy weather is right around the corner. For some, that means long hours shoveling snow. For others, snowy weather opens the door for fun winter activities. Whether you're shoveling or exercising this winter, the WTOL11 weather team is here to keep you safe and healthy. I spoke with ProMedica cardiologist Dr. Daniel Casavar on the health risks of shoveling and precautions you can take.
As a cardiologist, every year we try to avoid but see a lot of patients who have been exposed to cold weather and have had a heart attack. A lot of them were shoveling snow or doing outdoor activities that they may or may not have been okayed to do at the time.
Whether you're shoveling snow or exercising, warming up is an important way to prepare the heart and muscles for activity.
In our sports medicine clinic,
ProMedica sports medicine doctor Erica Martin explains.
doing a quick warm up inside just to kind of get your heart going and get your breathing a little bit elevated too might be a good idea.
Warming up is just one of several ways to prime the body for strenuous exercise.
We'd ask people to warm up and then get warm clothing in layers if they can, and then start slower, smaller shovels, smaller loads, take your time and take breaks in between.
Taking breaks and taking it slowly is especially important for those who are older and have pre-existing medical conditions.
If you're over 45 or 50, especially if you have known heart disease, you probably shouldn't be doing it. If you absolutely have to do it, you need to get warm, stay warm, cover your face so that you're not breathing ice cold air, and go slow at it and take breaks in between.
Other safety precautions are as simple as wearing reflective clothing.
So anything that you can make yourself as visible as possible to those around you, and then, avoiding whenever possible running or exercising in the road in those situations, because again, cars aren't always necessarily going to see you.
Clothing can keep you not only visible but also warm, which is equally important for shoveling and recreation.
Socks that are made with wool in particular. So I tell people cotton's rotten, especially when you're exercising outside, because cotton, it just gets wet and then you get cold, and then you can get, chafing and blisters and that sort of thing.
Whether you're shoveling, sledding, running, or walking in the cold and snow, you should look out for a few warning signs of overexertion.
You'll start to see pain and then numbness of hands or digits. They will start to get more of a confused look and glazed look, less responsive, more fatigue, a lot more short of breath. Those are warning signs that there's a problem going on.
But even with the inherent risks of shoveling and exercising, staying active during the winter months is important for your mind and body.
Exercise is super important for us from a mental health perspective, and with the light being reduced in the winter time, I think it's really important. So again, just finding something that you enjoy doing and doing that on a regular basis.
Whatever you enjoy doing to stay busy and active during the winter, the WTOL11 weather team will keep you updated and informed on the latest forecast, no matter what Mother Nature has in store. Reporting in Toledo, John Birchfield, WTOL11.
Fantastic information, John. A good reminder for you, you can catch our weekly WTOL11 Weather Hangout. It is streaming exclusively on WTOL11 Plus and on YouTube.
And we laugh, we joke, and we have fun, all while taking a deeper look into weather and climate topics in our local area.
Hard to believe we've already gone through a whole half hour here. Thank you so much for watching our WTOL11 weather special.
Yep, and the WTOL11 weather team will be the first to let you know before the wintry weather strikes this season.
Stay safe, stay warm, and thanks for watching.